لا إله إلا الله 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 لا إله إلا الله جود علينا.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending salutations, peace and blessings upon the best of creation, the jewel and crown of creation, the beloved of Allah Almighty, the coolness to our eyes, the purpose of our lives, the reviver of our hearts, the inspirer to our minds, the awakener of our souls, the most honored one, the most praised one, the most generous one, the most kind one. Undoubtedly, He is the most beautiful one, none other than Sayyiduna Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa barak wa sallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Al-Quran Al-Kareem, He in a number of places talks about the most important obligation upon man. An obligation which we must fulfill 5 times a day without fail. An obligation in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders His creation, especially those who believe in Him, to worship Him. He said in Al-Quran Al-Kareem, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ. Establish the prayer and give zakat and do sajda with those who bow. وَارْكَعُوا, do ruku, bow with those who bow to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة الوسطى وقوموا لله قانتين. And protect your prayers, guard your prayers, and the middle prayer, and stand to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dutifully. Be obedient in your stance before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ulama write, وَالصَّلَاةِ الْوُسْطَى حَافِظُوا عَلَى الصَّلَوَاتِ, يعني protect your prayers, guard the prayers. وَالصَّلَاةِ الْوُسْطَى, wusta means the middle one. And the ulama write that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to the Asar Prayer when He said, وَالصَّلَاةِ الْوُسْطَى. So He's mentioned prayers, but then He's singled out one specific prayer, which is the Asar Prayer, in this verse specifically. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, he who has missed his Asr, then his wealth, his children, none of this will be of good use or benefit to him. Yani he will lose all of this. In another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, فَإِذَا قَضَيْتُمُ الصَّلَاةَ فَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِكُمْ فَإِذَا تَمَعْنَنْتُمْ فَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. And when you establish the prayer, when you are about to perform the prayer, remember Allah Almighty standing, sitting, and on your sides. And when you have itminantum, which means to get itminan, when you've established your prayer, you've got into a moment of sukoon in your prayer, then establish the prayer indeed when you have completed the prayer, remember Allah standing, sitting, and on your sides. And when you've experienced this tranquility, then establish the prayer. Indeed, the prayer upon the believers is at prescribed times. For example, we are now into the Jum'ah time. It is now further on us to perform our Jum'ah prayer. Somebody may argue and say, well, can I do Jum'ah on a Friday after Maghrib? No. Because the Jum'ah prayer is specific to the Zuhr time. It can only be performed in that time slot, at that time. It cannot be performed on a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday other than that time on Friday. So people say, oh, I've missed my Jum'ah. It's Asar time. I'll read the 2 fard of Jum'ah then and do khutbah. No. Jum'ah is specific to this time on a Friday. Likewise, is Asar fard on me and you right now? Asar is not fard on me and you right now. Asar is fard when? When the time begins. जब असर का वक्त दाखिल होता है, उस वक्त असर फर्ज हो जाता है. That time asar is fard on you. Up until then, because imagine you passed away after you read your Zuhr, and you believe that reading your Asar and Maghrib and Isha prayer, this is fard on you right now, then if you die, then you will be culpable. You will be held to account for not reading your Asar. Whereas Asar is only fard on you when? When the Asar time enters. If you die before Asar time enters, you will not be asked about that Asar prayer. You will only be asked about the prayers that were before the time of your death. So we have to remember that when is Salah fard on you? When the time enters. So right now it is fard on all the Muslims in Bradford to perform the Jumu'ah prayer. Right now, unless they are musafir, they are traveling from a long distance, then in this case you would have to read your Zuhr. Or they are terminally ill, they cannot leave their homes, then they would read the Zuhr. They wouldn't read the Jumu'ah. Because Jumu'ah has certain conditions which we can look at on another occasion. So establishing the prayer, reading your Salah, إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا. Indeed, prayer has been established upon the believers at specific times. Fajr, if you didn't read your Fajr, is it fard on you now? You've missed Fajr. Now Fajr is qada. You must make up for your Fajr if you missed it. So that time has passed. And when does Fajr time end? People may assume Fajr time ends when Zuhr begins. No. Fajr time ends just before sunrise. You have up until sunrise to read your Fajr. As soon as the sun has begun rising, if you are on your second rakat of Fajr, you must stop. You must read your Fajr after now. So your Fajr prayer must be read in between the Fajr Sadiq and Tulu'u Shams. So between sunrise and the Fajr Sadiq, between this time, you must read your Fajr. After sunrise, Fajr now becomes Qada. It's no longer Fajr. Fajr now you have to make up for your Fajr. Fajr doesn't go from Fajr Sadiq, Al-Fajr Sadiq, it doesn't go from this time all the way up till Zawal, no. You see, between sunrise and Zawal time, you can read your Ishraq and your Chasht prayers. You can read Nawafil in this time. So the Salatul Duha as they call. So the midday prayer, like just before midday, you can read 2 raka'ah nafil, 4 raka'ah nafil, 8 units of prayer. You can do these Nawafil in that time. That is like morning time. And then you have Zuhr begins. Zuhr begins from which time? Zawal. After Zawal time. What is Zawal? Zawal is when the sun is at its zenith. So if we was to imagine the sun rising, so this is the horizon here, for example, this piece of wood, just so you understand. And the sun is beneath the horizon. So it's dark still. And then it starts rising. This point, whilst to take for the sun to rise, this is called the sunrise. In this time, it is prohibited to pray. You are not allowed to pray in sunrise. In this time. You are not allowed to pray zenith. So when the sun is rising and it goes up to middle of the sky, this is called the zenith. This is the zawal. For a period of around 3-4 minutes, and the ulama give 10-minute time. Some give 5 to 10 minutes. As the sun starts to go like this way, starts to decline or move down towards sunset. At this point from the middle of the sky to this point here, this 5-minute, 10-minute time frame, it is prohibited for anyone to offer any prayer in this time. You are not allowed to pray in this time. And the third time where you shouldn't be praying is when? Sunset. At the time when the sun is setting. So the sun now is getting to the horizon again, is about to set. At that time, it is makruh for you. It's disliked severely. You should not be praying your salahs at that time. This is the end points of praying. The end times of praying. So it's very important to keep this in mind. These are the prayer times where it's, and in the Hanafi school, after the Asar, if you've read your Asar namaz, you've done the Asar fard, after this time, you shouldn't be reading nafal. You can do qaza namaz, you can make up for the praise you've missed, but you can't read your nafal at that time. Likewise, after you've read your fajr, so you've read your fajr, say example, today 4 o'clock you read your fajr. Sunrise was at 5:10, for example. So you read your fajr at 4 o'clock. From that time now till 5:10, you can't read nafal. You shouldn't be reading nafal. You can read qada, make up your prayers. You can read the Quran. You could do dhikr, adhkar. But you shouldn't be reading nawafil prayer in this time. So this is very important that these are times people don't know. This is basic knowledge of salah that people do not know. They lack knowledge of. That people may have studied and forgotten, may need revision on. But this ilm, this knowledge is fard. This is fardul ayn. You must have this knowledge. Because you could be traveling in a part of the world where there is no clock, for example, you don't have no time on you. How will you know then when is the prayer time? Like I can tell you, I know when Asr time begins. When your shadow is 2 shadow lengths. In the Hanafi school, Asr time has begun. When it extends 2 shadow lengths. So remember the sun is here, now it starts to go. Now the shadow starts to appear. As soon as it gets to about this point, it gets to 2 lengths. Now Asr has begun. Anything before then, you see, we live in a time, a day and age, where we have digital clocks, we have watches. In the old times, they used to have what? Sundials. You know what a sundial is? They would have sundials in Rome and Greece and these parts of the world, even in the Arab world. So they'd have a stick there, a sundial, and that would then act as the clock in that time. Now we've got phones on there, we have digital timings, everything is all automated in this manner. But in a case, a scenario, if you're traveling in safar and you don't know what to do, where to go, then you must have this ilm. You must have this knowledge of at what point, like in the Shafi'i school, Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi, he said that the Asar prayer begins when 1 shadow length, as soon as 1 goes into 2. We say it begins after 2. So there's a subtle difference. And the ulama write the difference is around 25 minutes between the 2. So for example, you go to Doha Masjid. In Doha Masjid, they will do the Asr earlier than we do in Al-Hikam. Because they do not follow the Hanafi school, they follow the Shafi'i school. For example, this is an example for you. But because we are followers of the school of Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi, we are students in his school. So all my life, I have been a student in the school of Abu Hanifa. This is all I've studied. Even though recently I've read other schools like the Shafi'i school, the Maliki school, we read these books. But in general, the rule is that you follow one school. What will happen if you begin to follow different schools? I'll take one from here, I'll take one from here, I'll take one from here. It confuses you. That's why we should have affiliation to one school and be students of that one school of law. Imam Abu Hanifa is one of the greatest Islamic lawyers in the entire ummah. Imam Shafi'i is one of the greatest Islamic lawyers in the entire ummah. These were beyond lawyers. These are the greatest scholars in jurisprudence that have ever set foot on this earth. All the great Imams after them, like Fakhruddin Razi, Imam Ghazali, Sayyidina Abdul Qadir al-Ghailani, Imam Jalaluddin al-Suyuti, all these great Imams, none of them would come equal to, when it came to this subject, to the level of Imam Abu Hanifa or Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi, or Imam Malik or Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. These were Imams of schools. They established schools of jurisprudence, schools of law. And in their schools there were magnificent scholars in the Hanafi school, great scholars in the Shafi'i school, great scholars in the Maliki school. They had scholars within their schools that came. And they were great men. These were learned men, men of knowledge, men of ilm, men of righteousness, piety. And they did the hard work in establishing the books, establishing the rulings based on the usul, the principles. You see, it's not as easy as, okay, what is it? For you, a muqallid, somebody who does taqleed of a school, who is a follower of a school, it's easy because all you've got to do is ask the imam, what's the ruling? And you do. But as you study more, you will, and your knowledge of jurisprudence develops, you will begin to understand. You will begin to see that there's far more depth. It's a never-ending ocean, the amount of knowledge there is inside the schools of jurisprudence. So it comes down to, for example, prayer. There's many things in prayer people don't know. They make mistakes, common mistakes. People don't understand the importance of prayer. Miftahul Jannati as-salah wa miftahu as-salah at-tuhur. The key to prayer, the key to paradise is prayer. And the key to prayer is wudu, purification. You cannot read your salah if you are not clean. You cannot read your salah if you do not make wudu. It's a condition. How do you make wudu? So many people make common mistakes in making wudu. When you go to make wudu, it's quite simple. And I'll quickly go through it now with you so it refreshes you. You make intention. Question, should the intention be made verbally? There's a difference of opinion. Some say you can make a verbal intention that I'm making intention to make wudu now for my Jumu'ah prayer, Zuhr prayer for example. Or Allah knows what's in your heart, you've gone to make wudu to pray, so He knows this. So you make your intention is in your heart and Allah knows. Then you would, like it's preferred that when you make wudu you face towards the Qibla. That's the preferred method. These are all preferences that if you do, you will get more ajr, more reward. If you don't do, there's no sin or punishment on you. But what is necessary and needed is this, that you wash your hand 3 times. When you wash your hand 3 times, everything must be done thrice. For the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ was to do things 3 times. You do it including your wrists. Some people just wash their fingers like this. You put your hand in and you rub your hands like this, do dalk. Wipe over your hands so you know that your hands are getting washed, including your wrists. Once you washed your hands, then 3 times you gargle your mouth, wash your mouth. So when you wash your mouth, you get a handful in your hands like this, or you get it into one hand, you put it into your mouth, and then you gargle. You gargara. It's called gargara in the Arabic language, and I think they call it the same in Urdu as well, gargara. You do gargara, and once you've gargled, you spit it out. It is extremely encouraged that you use a miswak. You get the small wooden stick and you use a miswak and you clean your teeth, if you can. If you cannot, then you can use your index finger and you can just clean your teeth like this and then spit that out. 3 times you would do this. You would wash your mouth. Then you would 3 times wash your nose. So you get the water and not just, I've seen so many people just do this. This is not washing the nose. It's taking the water into the nose. To some extent it says that your water should go into touching the bone inside the nose here. And you must blow out everything then. So you put it in with the right, blow with the left. In with the right, blow with the left. In with the right, blow with the 3 times you clean your nose. Once you've cleaned your nose, then you get your, and this is fard now. This is a necessary. You put water in your hand and you wash your entire face. Not just this part here, not here. Everything, all parts of your face. So how do you wash all parts? What's the circumference of the face? What is the diameters of the face? It begins from your forelock here, all the way down to your chin, from your earlobe to your earlobe. All of this has to be washed, all of this. And you mustn't splash this water on your face. This is severely disliked, that you get water and you splash it on your face. No, you get it and you immerse your face in like this. You do it like this, all the way. And you do this 3 times. 3 times you wash your face. Then you wash your arm 3 times. So you get the water and you do it on your arm. And then with the other hand, you wipe that water to make sure that the water is touching every hair on your arm. So you wipe over it, including your elbow. In the Shafi'i school, Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah alayh, he said that it's up to your elbow here. This is suffice, it is enough. And he gives his logic and his reason according to Quran, what he understood, which is fine. But in the Hanafi school, the school that we follow, it is including your elbow here. It's making sure that your entire arm from here is from your fingertips here all the way up to including your elbow. Up to and including your elbow. This is you washing your arm 3 times. Then the same with your left arm, 3 times. Then you wipe your hand. This is called mashur ras. It is fard to wipe 1/4. The head is divided into 4 quarters. There are 4 quarters of the head. You have this top part here. This is 1/4. This is another quarter here. 2, 1, 2, 3, and then back is 4. You could simply just get a wet hand and wipe over the side like this, and the fard is done. You've done the fard. But the sunnah method is that you get these 3 fingers and you wipe over here. The top, this is 1/4 with these 3 fingers. 1/4. Then 2 other quarters. So that's a half here, like this. Then the back of your hand, you wipe on here, the neck area and the back of your head. Then with the index finger, which is not being used yet, you put it into your ears. You clean your ears all the way inside, all this area here, not just here, all the way here, around here, and with your thumb, you do this. That's how you would do mashur ras. That's how you would wipe your head. This is the method of doing mash of the ras, wiping the head. And once you've done mashur ras, then you wash your feet. And your feet include your toes, and it also includes your ankles. So it's all this area. It's not just throw your toes in, give them a little dabble, and I've washed my feet. No, you haven't washed your feet yet. You must wash your feet properly. Which means you cannot read your salah if you do not make your wudu. Wudu is a condition of prayer. And so many people, sadly, unfortunately, and I'm not gonna, I don't, and I never want to embarrass nobody, You know, it doesn't matter. If you don't know, you don't know. But you must learn. What is embarrassing is when you don't want to learn. That's embarrassing. You should be embarrassed you don't want to learn. You shouldn't be embarrassed of not knowing. Okay, you don't know, it doesn't matter. We didn't know once upon a time, then we learn. Likewise, if you don't know, you must not be embarrassed to seek knowledge and learn. Wudu is very important. These are basics that everyone must know. And this is how you would make wudu. If you have a beard, after you have washed your face, or after you have done masfur ras, then with your fingers you do khilalul lihya. So if you've got a thick beard like myself, for example, and others sat here, then you put your fingers through your beard so that the hair of the beard is washed as well. That's what you would do. And if you don't have a thick beard, your beard's not long, or you don't have a beard, then it's okay. It doesn't matter. As long as you have washed your face. That will cover the circumference of the face. Remember, the beard is covering this chin and jaw area. In order for water to reach there, you would do khilalul lihya. You would do the khilal of this. So making wudu is very important. It would be wrong for me to teach you how to pray if I haven't taught you how to clean yourself first. The first step is that you must make intention. Everything begins with intention. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. For every person, for actions are found upon intentions. And every person will get what he intends. If you intend to make wudu, every time, for example, water drops from your body after, or your arms or your feet after you made wudu, it's like the sins are falling from your body. That's what the ulama write. And there's du'as that you should read when you are making wudu. Again, these are preferences, extras. If you did, Allah will give you ajr. If you do not do, you will not be sinned. But what I've mentioned is what is necessary in wudu to make sure. And again, if I was to get even a little bit more technical, we've got to even go into the type of water you use. Not all water, for example, what if that water is dirty? Would you be able to use this water to make wudu with? No. So you've got to have knowledge of the types of water. That's why if you study the basic books of fiqh, jurisprudence, Islamic law, in relation to your worship, they begin with aqsamul ma, types of water. So the ulama write, rainwater you can use, snow water you can use, hail water you can use, mountain water, water that's on mountains, you can use this. This type of water you can use to make wudu if you are traveling, for example. But we are quite blessed. Yorkshire water has no end, even though prices have gone up a little bit. But we can just turn the tap and we can use the water. But we must always be very cautious and careful of a few things. One of the things we need to be cautious and careful of is wasting water. Allah Almighty does not like people who waste things. We mustn't waste food. We mustn't waste water. You know, we must respect these things. These are blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ni'mas. وَخَلَقَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ مِّن مَاءٍ. He created everything from water. Respect water. Water is what is used to purify. It is tahir and mutahir. It purifies and it's pure and it purifies. So then when we look into prayer, when you stand for prayer, a lot of people make mistakes. They don't know, how to stand in prayer, for example, or what to read. But we must learn. Again, we must learn. The whole objective is that you learn. For example, when we do takbir, what is the correct way of doing takbir? When we say Allahu Akbar, it is putting your thumbs onto your earlobes like this. I see people doing it down here. I see people doing it up here. I don't know where they've learned that from. But the correct way in the Hanafi school, which is majority, I'd say 97, 98% of us here follow the school of Imam Abu Hanifa, rahmatullah alayhi. And in the Hanafi school, the correct way is what? That you put your thumbs onto your earlobes. And when people do it like this. I've seen people do Allahu Akbar like this. I've seen people do it like this. That's not the way. What's the correct way of doing takbir, for example? It's like this. Making sure your fingers don't be like this. They don't need to be like this. Just natural. Allahu Akbar. You're looking forward. as you're saying Allahu Akbar, you're lowering your gaze and your hands are joining. When you join your hands, some people say you've got to do it like this, like this. I've seen people, they put their hand here, put their hand here. If you are Shafi'i, you are Maliki, some even Ghair Muqallid, there are people who don't follow no Imam in this congregation. You can do as you wish. But those of you who follow the Hanafi school, all your life you've been following Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayh, then the method is that your palm wrapped around your wrist, simple, like this. And then your thumb and your index finger or your finger makes a circle, like this. And then you put this here and it's below your belly button. So for example, in the Shafi'i school, when they are doing takbir, those who are Shafi'i will know, they will do it like this, Allahu Akbar, and they will put it slightly here. In the Shafi'i school, this is it, this is fine, acceptable. I'm not disputing anything. MashaAllah, Shafi'i is Ahlul Sunnah, fine. However, in the Hanafi school, it's like this. Allahu Akbar, there. This is where it would go. But a lot of people, they don't. And the reason why I'm keep emphasizing Hanafi is for this reason, because people, if you start to pick and choose, mix and match, you will confuse yourself. Me as an Imam who has been practicing, for example, from the age of 15, studying from the age of 15, 16, I'm 32, 16 years of my life, I have not reached the end of the Hanafi school. And I've been studying all my life. How will you, who is busy with work and children and school and this and this and this? It's not possible. That's why the easy way is, I do taqleed of this Imam. The Imam taught us, it's upon him, for example. So we would stand, we would say, Allahu Akbar, like this. You put it here. In the Hanafi school, this is how you would do takbir. I think Tariq's come here thinking Jummah started. Jummah hasn't started, Tariq. I'm just going through how to do the prayer, the method of praying, for example. And then Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika wa tabarak asmuka wa ta'ala jadduka wa la ilaha ghayruk. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Surah Al-Fatiha. Another surah. And then you go into ruku. So you will drop your hands and you will go into ruku. I've seen people, when they go into ruku, for example, they say Allahu Akbar, they go into ruku and they're like this. There's men who do ruku like women. Women are told to do ruku like this. Men are told to do ruku like this. You grip your kneecaps. I've seen guys who hold their shins. Grip your kneecaps and like this. This is how you do ruku. Making sure that your back is straight. This is how you would do ruku. And then you read Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana. Every position you must be in itminan, sukoon. Not Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. So, guys are quick in a rush, like, they've got a race on. You must, every position you must be in sukoon, comfortable. You must have a moment of relief in that position. You go into ruku, Allahu Akbar. You grip your kneecaps. And you make sure your back is straight. Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana Rabbil Azim. Sami Allahu liman hamida. Stand straight. Not, and they go into sajda. No, none of this. Stand. Sami Allahu liman hamida. What does Sami Allahu liman hamida mean? Allah listens to his praise. When the Imam says Sami Allahu liman hamida, Allah listens to the praise. What do you respond? Rabbana walakal hamd. Oh Allah, for you is the praise. All hamd is for you. Rabbana lakal hamd. Hamdan kathiran tayyiban mubarak fi, mubarak alayk, like this. Then you go into ruku. When you go into ruku, you make sure your knees touch the ground first. Then your hands. One very important thing, people make a mistake. When you're in sajda, when you go into sujood, you have to make sure that your nose and your forehead are on the ground. You mustn't lift your nose off the ground. I've seen people lift the nose off the ground in sajda. This invalidates the prayer. You must do sajda to sahwu for this. For this reason, it's very important, my brothers, that we learn these basics of prayer. It's preferred, it's advised that you don't read your salah. It's makruh, actually disliked. Mine are disliked to read with, for example, short sleeves. It is disliked to read without a hat on your head, for example. In the Hanafi school, these are things that are mentioned. So we must get into the habit where we have a hat on our head, we make sure that we're covered, we make sure that our rear is not exposed when we go into ruku or into sujood. We make sure that our feet are on the ground, our toes are facing the qibla. We make sure that we do not move our chest. The moment you move tahwil al-sadri anil qibla, move your chest from the qibla, your salah breaks. You must start your prayer all over again. For example, if your eyes wounded, your salah doesn't break. If you're looking straight forward and you're reading your salah, it doesn't break your salah. Even if you move your head, it wouldn't break your salah. What breaks your salah? Moving your chest. Moving your chest from the qibla. And this is very important for us to bear in mind, that we get into these habits. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to learn and understand the prayer and do it properly. If everyone can stand up, inshallah, move forward, fill in the gaps you see in front of you and next to you. Jazakumullah khair.
لا إله إلا الله 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 لا إله إلا الله جود علينا